I'm okay with that.
Okay.
We're wasting time.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, microphone. So, okay, just to make sure that the motion is written in a positive way, just to make sure that we all know on what we will vote. Just another way of phrasing it. The motion will read, do you agree to keep the 3-minute limits as agreed and was adopted yesterday pertaining to rules of procedure motion that was adopted yesterday? So do you want to keep the 3 minutes limit agreed to yesterday? So if you vote for this, we keep the 3 minutes. If you vote against, it's unlimited. So this is the motion we have. This is the decision we made. This is the motion we have, and I think we will now go to the vote. Chief, is this the spirit and intent of your proposed motion, Chief at the microphone number 1, please?
Miigwech, I'm starting to regret getting up this morning. All I wanted to do was either support what we had already decided on, or do we remove it? Because we can't have it both ways. We need to make a decision on how we conduct ourselves. We agreed to that yesterday, and I'm not saying that's right or wrong. All I'm saying is that's what we agreed to. So all I'm saying is, do we support what was said yesterday, or do we remove it?
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, microphone number 2, please.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. So my understanding is that this assembly voted on a rules and procedure for the meeting. The rules were adopted by this assembly, and those rules stated that there was a time limit for this assembly. The time to amend that rule around time limits was yesterday. The rules and procedures were adopted by this assembly, and I understand that some would like to have more minutes to speak to certain issues. But the reality is there's hundreds of us here. If every person was given 10 minutes, it would take us hours to get through a single resolution. Even 3 minutes is a lot of time relative to the amount of speakers we have. So from a point of order standpoint, we already decided, this assembly voted by a majority vote for 3 minutes. It was agreed to by everybody that voted in that. If you voted no, that was your right, but the rules and order of procedure also state that 60% of those voting are the way we make decisions here. So we made a decision yesterday at the beginning of the assembly, as we've always done. I do think that there is room for improvement on the rules and order of procedure. There's a lot of ways we can make these assemblies more productive and more efficient. And I have ideas on how that could happen. I know others, chiefs have come to me. I think some of my colleagues in the Chiefs Committee on Charter Renewal were also discussing this yesterday. So I would say let's take note of what's not working. Let's gather that feedback, and let's come back for the next assembly with some proposed changes to make this more efficient, more fair, more equitable. But I'm really, really sorry to say this to everybody, but we have a lot of resolutions to get through. We've eaten up 10 minutes just on this already. We decided yesterday, 3 minutes. We all decided in those rules and order procedure. It was already decided. So I feel that this motion, and I appreciate the sentiment of my colleague, and I agree with him, but we need to get on with it. We already voted on this, so.
Thank you very much, Councilor, for this. I'll go to microphone number 1, but I'll go to mover to make sure that he's okay if we continue as was, if he agrees to withdraw his motion, and this means that there's no motion on the floor. That would mean that we don't have any motion on the floor, and the only thing that stands is what we all adopted yesterday, which is the rules of procedures that contain a rule of a 3-minute time limit. So just to clarify, the mover, do you agree to withdraw your motion? And this would mean that we all here agree that we made a rule and we will apply it as everyone was agreed upon yesterday. Mover, microphone number 1, please.
Miigwech, before I answer your question, I have to say that when we adopt rules and procedures and we agree in assembly of our chair people, or co-chair, that we are giving them the power to follow our rules, but it also gives them power of discretion, which is what my colleague here is talking about. So I have no problem pulling that motion, but I would encourage you, when we're talking about these important issues, to use your discretion instead of the clock. Miigwech.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Just for this, in a way, you understand that we need to be fair. And if what would happen if I say yes to someone, I give more, this one, not this one, not this time. No, this is very difficult for us. So that is why we need a rule to apply consistently. And the thing is, we are not in a discussion, we're not discussing a resolution right now. It was only in a plenary, let's say. So, okay, and this 3 minutes time limit is to give the more chiefs and proxies time to come, just for, not for 1 or 2, like we want to hear the more chiefs that want to come and speak. You're here for that. So I want to give you all an equal chance to speak. You have the right to speak. So microphone number 1, please, Chief.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Charles Morvan, the Secretary-Treasurer for Nisga'a government. Got permission to speak from our President of the Nisga'a Nation, and I was just going to mention the same thing, that the rules were adopted yesterday, and that everybody approved of them, and that we were wasting another half a day just discussing this, like we did yesterday. And so one of the other things that I wanted to speak to too, when we're discussing motions and debating them, it's okay to disagree, because we spend half a day trying to amend motions that lose the meaning of the intent that they came to the table for. And I think people, if you don't want to support a motion, don't. If you're going to support it, rather than spending half a day amending a motion that loses its intent in the first place. So I just wanted to say that, so thank you.
Thank you, Chief, for your comment. And we'll go to, it's number 1 and then number 2. And so I'll come back to number 2, because I see Kelsilem, you're still waiting to move it. But there's someone to, do you want to address the Assembly this time?
Yeah.
Microphone number 2, please.
If I can call a point of order and ask the chairs to stick to the agenda. This is not part of the agenda right now. Let's move on to the resolutions, please.
Thank you. We will decide this point of order. Yes, but there was a, sorry, microphone please. There was a point of order. This needs to be dealt right away. Yes, I'm dealing with one point of order at a time. I'm sorry. One point of order at a time, and I'm dealing with the point of order that we all heard, that was made by Kelsilem here at microphone number 2. We made a decision, co-chairs, and we decided that our decision is to agree with this point of order, and we will stick to the agenda. So we will go right now, with no other delay, to draft resolution number 4. This is the decision of the chair. Decision of the chair can be appealed. It is in the rule also, but this is our decision. So, thank you very much. Thank you very, very, very much for all of you here present and in the online. I know it must not be easy to follow, and thank you for your comprehension. Thank you, Kelsilem. I know you're the mover. I will ask the seconder to please come in any time now, but we will now proceed with draft resolution number 4. It is entitled Charter Amendment, AFN Orientation. And I want to address this. We agreed this morning during our debrief to read this in French, so that I will do that in French. So this draft resolution number 4 is presented. It has been moved, and now I'm looking at microphone number 2 to see if we have our seconder there.
Thank you very much. I'll go now. Just I'm the seconder for the resolution. Chief Eric Morris, Tezinclica Council, Nishadani.
Thank you very much. Okay, so this draft resolution number 4 has been moved, seconded. We will now read together the decision part of the draft resolution, the therefore be it resolved section, but I will read it in French. Attendu que.
Whereas, A, in the interest of improving the efficiency and integrity of the Assembly of First Nations, AFN, the Chiefs Committee on Charter Renewal reaffirms the AFN Renewal Report's recommendation that orientation be available to all political representatives and their technicians as appropriate.
Next slide, please. Is there another one? I think so. Okay.
B. The 2009 AFN Renewal Commission recommendation number 18 recommended I, and that each regional chief be provided with orientation and ongoing advice as to the appropriate fulfillment of his or her political duties in relation to the AFN's administrative operations, staff, and financial resources.
C. The 2005 AFN Renewal Commission Recommendation 39 recommended
Et en outre, que les présidents
and further that speakers be provided with orientation and targeted training as required in advance of an assembly. D. The 2005 AFN Renewal Commission Recommendation 485 recommended that as a significant element of its public education function, the Assembly First Nation provide orientation to First Nations leaders, youth, AFN staff, and others as appropriate, and further that such orientation encompass introduction to AFN structures, procedures, modes of conduct, as well as teachings on First Nations values. Prochain. E. Article 4 of UNDRIP states Indigenous peoples, in exercising their right to self-determination, have the right to autonomy or self-government in matters relating to their internal and local affairs, as well as ways and means for financing their autonomous functions. F. Article 5 of UNDRIP states Indigenous peoples have the right to maintain and strengthen their distinct political, legal, economic, social, and cultural institutions, while retaining their right to participate fully, if they so choose, in the political, economic, social, and cultural life of the state. Apologies for the interpreters.
Article 18 de la déclaration stipule.
G. Article 18 of UNDRIP states Indigenous peoples have the right to participate in decision-making in matters which would affect their rights through representatives chosen by themselves in accordance with their own procedures, as well as to maintain and develop their own Indigenous decision-making institutions. Article H. Article 20 of UNDRIP states Indigenous peoples have the right to maintain and develop their political, economic, and social systems or institutions to be secure in the enjoyment of their means of subsistence and development, and to engage freely in all their traditional and other economic activities.
E.
The Assembly of First Nations has a role and a responsibility to provide orientation to the AFN, including to new members, new leaders, regional chiefs, First Nations youth, and AFN staff, among others. J. Such orientation should introduce participants to AFN structures and procedures, expectations concerning delegate and participant conduct, and interaction at assemblies, committees, working groups, and AFN gatherings, and include education and teachings on AFN principles, traditional values, and guiding foundations. We're now at the part I wanted to read. The decisions, therefore be it resolved that the First Nations in Assembly, 1, directs that Section 26.4 be added to the AFN Charter, which shall state, I, the AFN Secretariat, shall provide orientation on behalf of the Assembly of First Nations, specifically to support and provide information for official AFN political and or technical representatives to ensure the efficiency of AFN's operations, gatherings, and assemblies. 2. Directs that the AFN Secretariat, in the development and delivery of orientation, either through bylaws, policies, or resolutions, addresses the following considerations that may include A. An orientation to introduce official AFN representatives and participants to AFN governance and operations. B. Expectations concerning delegate and participant conduct and interaction at assemblies, committees, working groups, and AFN gatherings. And C. Education and teachings on AFN principles, traditional values, and guiding foundations. That is what concludes draft resolution number 4, Charter Amendment AFN Orientation. And I will continue in English.
So I will continue in English. I will now open the floor for discussion on this draft resolution number 4, and I will give the opportunity to the mover to speak up on this draft resolution number 4, and the mover has up to 5 minutes to introduce this draft resolution. So microphone number 2, please, 5 minutes.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity to present this resolution, this charter amendment, which was discussed and presented to the Chiefs Committee on Charter Renewal. I have one of my colleagues from the committee seconding this resolution. This resolution comes from a recommendation, as you can see, from the 2005 Renewal Commission report. We've been using that as a guiding document, given the extensive consultation and engagement that happened at the time and the wonderful recommendations that are in it. But this one is intended to be a very straightforward, very simple, very, as I described yesterday, low-hanging fruit. It really just calls for the AFN to be mandated to provide orientation for new leaders, new participants, whether it's our youth, or knowledge keepers, or elected leaders, whether it's the regional chief, national chief, anybody that participates in the AFN, that the recommendation out of the report that we agree with is there's an opportunity to do orientation so that as people are starting to engage in our systems here at this organization, that they get that education and the opportunity to learn. So for example, sometimes people might not know what the resolution process is. They might not know how motions are debated or resolved, or they might not know what the structure of the organization is. So it's intended to be a way to provide that education. In addition to that, one of the big recommendations of that report was it's also an opportunity to educate new participants, all participants, on how we can conduct ourselves at our assemblies, our committees, our working groups, all the places that we participate in, so that we can establish the best practices and those standards so that everybody can feel that they're being respected and included to bring their full selves to the work. So it's intended to be a very simple, very straightforward amendment to the charter that just established this as an ongoing obligation. It's intended to be not too specific, so it allows for that flexibility that over time that orientation can change as the needs change. But we know that the wonderful staff of the Secretariat would be able to help craft that orientation, and then as we start to do it, we'd be able to evolve it over the years. So our hope is that this is a very simple, straightforward amendment. My hope is that we can get through this one quickly, because I know we have a lot of other resolutions to get to, so hopefully it's seen as a very straightforward, a very practical step for us to take. And we won't be entertaining any amendments to the resolution, so if anybody does want to suggest an amendment, we don't want to entertain any amendments at this time, because this was crafted and worked on by the committee. But if there are feedback on the resolution or the concept, I think, we're happy to talk about that after, and we can, make further changes later on. But at this time, this is the resolution we wanted to submit at this time. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. mover, Kelzilem. I will now give the opportunity to the seconder to speak on this resolution. You have 3 minutes. Microphone number 2, please.
I'll be short. I just, this is done in consideration to the use of the chief's time in regards to the work that sometimes is set out by the Assembly, and just understanding their roles and responsibilities and making sure that they're given enough information to do their work efficiently and effectively, and I think it's in consideration of that. And so, if I might, out of respect for the time, if I can call question to this.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So we still have people at the microphone. I was not sure I did hear well what you said, but Adam just confirmed. I know you're asking question, but we will hear microphone number 1, please. 3 minutes. I don't know if you can hear me. Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay. Chief Cold Lake First Nation, Kelsey Jacko. Orientation is all nice and everything, but you know, from Alberta, we don't have a representative or anything. So maybe, you know, how do we get our voices heard there? You know, we have good views, but our words are unheard coming from a Treaty 6. That's all I have to say. I just thought I'd state it. Thanks. Masi.
Thank you very much. We will now go to microphone number 2. Please, you have 3 minutes. Microphone number 2.
I won't take 3 minutes. Regina Crowchild, Associated Nation. Okay, I'm not speaking against the resolution. What I want to know is who's going to conduct the orientation? Are we going to have consultants lining up trying to get into this? Or are we going to use our knowledge keepers or our elders or groups that are here? Who's going to do that training? Because I can assure you, we're not all at the same level when it comes to addressing our issues at assemblies, because we're not heard. Many of us are not heard at all. Is it going to be about the relationship we have with the state of Canada? Who's going to do the orientation with our relationship with our treaty partner, who is the Crown? I'd just like some clarification.
Thank you very much, Chief. Okay, so I'll just turn the floor over to the mover and seconder if they wish to readdress the floor before calling for the vote. So microphone number 2, please.
No, it's an excellent question, and I appreciate.
Answer the question.
Yeah. Sorry, she was asking if I was going to answer the question. Yes, I am. I think it's an excellent question, and I think what's wonderful about our organization is we do have the groups like our Knowledge Keepers Council, the Youth Council, the 2S, LGBTIA Council, the Veterans Council. We also have our executive committee to approve policies for the Secretariat. So what it establishes as the first step, I think that the next steps will be for the Secretariat to develop some, proposals or some ideas. I think the Executive Committee will probably be engaged, but there's also an opportunity to consult the advisory councils on what should be in that orientation, who should deliver it, all of that kind of stuff. So I think that this is just the first step in that, but I do think that the question is totally valid, and I think it will be up to the Secretariat to come up with recommendations, the Executive to weigh in on that, and then eventually I think the Assembly as well to be consulted on that with the advisory councils as well. So I think it's an excellent suggestion. The main answer is there's more work to do now if this is approved, but it is a really, really good point, and I think we have a lot of resources within the Assembly to do that work.
Thank you very much for this. Do you add something to? Do you have something to add?
Just for the work of the resolutions, for example, or our direction from the chiefs in Assembly. It's just being familiar with some of the work that has to happen, like when we have new leaders coming in and giving them a broad a perspective of what's contained within the resolutions that creates direction for their, let's say if they're on a specific committee, it helps create that direction that they need to be working in, and so it just provides that clarification because it's about the efficient use of their time, because the chiefs got many things that they're working on, not only here but in the communities and at home and on the various things that they're involved in, and so it's the best use of their time, and it helps everybody.
Thank you very much for this. So I acknowledge there are two chiefs at the microphone, and I will No one on the Zoom line, so on the Zoom platform. We will close the speakers list after we heard the two of you. So I'll go now to because we keep the order, right? So I'll go to microphone number 1 and then to microphone number 2. So to you, microphone number 1, please state your name and if you're proxy or chief.
Thank you. Chief Kevin Hart, I'm proxy for Chief Owens from Little Grand Rapids, Manitoba First Nation. Question I have is that the Charter has always been a guide for us as the Assembly of First Nations and such, and it's been developed since the inception of the National Indian Brotherhood and such. So it's been a guiding principle for us as regional chiefs, as national chief, and of course as chiefs. But when we see the Charter right now and the Charter renewal, and I want to say and congratulate the Charter Renewal Committee on the work that they did, but you just seen how contentious it was when we talked about UNDRIP, when it comes to pre-Confederation, the number of treaties, as well as modern-day treaties. And you're saying that you want to write articles of UNDRIP into the AFN Charter. Well, for us who are already sovereign, autonomous rights holders, we should be able to pen that and define our own laws and that without having UNDRIP there. We should have that same language there, but we should have that pen to write our own languages and write our own laws. You know, they say UNDRIP is a guiding principle. Well, we just heard that Article 46, because of Canada accepting it, you know, that was the only way that we were going to get UNDRIP, was through Article 46 here in Canada. And if you look at it, they don't recognize our rights fully. So, you know, I have a point of order on that when we talk about UNDRIP and implementing it into our charter. The chiefs define the charter. So the work of the committee, you know, I commend them in that, but we have to remember that the original rights holders are the ones that wrote that charter. So for myself as an individual rights holder, I have more power than any other regular Canadian as a rights holder. As a treaty rights holder, I'm a sovereign person that's autonomous, that have rights that you as the national chief and those regional chiefs up there have to fight and protect every day. So that's my question, is that aren't we as sovereign autonomous people the ones that are willing to write our own charters, just like how we're defining our own laws and such right now? Like, is there a dependency on UNDRIP that we need to clearly define here? Because we see that right now, it's very controversial. And it's going to be controversial even when we bring it up to here to the charter renewal. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chief Hart. I guess you might oppose the draft resolution, so we'll get to the vote once we're finished. To microphone number 2 for the last speaker. To you, microphone number 2.
Josh Kwan ekut digo pejio ando tem not commegoning anishinabe proxy Warren White not commegoning anishinabe. I did get some clarification from the mover and the seconder in regards to I don't want to go through that orientation we went through yesterday all morning and all afternoon. It seemed like it was going that way again, and it is. To dictate the chief's behavior and how they conduct themselves and how they ask questions, to me, is wrong, because the chiefs represent their communities and their people. And it really hurt me to see that chiefs are being cut off. Regina asked a specific question. You know, there was no answers. There's disrespect there. You know, it was a simple questions. Nobody there answered her. And to disrespect a woman like Regina, who speaks from the heart of the treaty, you know, she should be answered. So that's all I wanted to say. I got clarification here that this won't happen again, to school the chiefs on how they conduct business in their own forum. Don't let it happen again.
Thank you, Chief. So you want to address the...
Just quickly.
Okay, so microphone number 2, last, the mover is going to readdress the discussion, but we'll call for the vote right after. Microphone number 2, please.
Thank you. No, I appreciate the questions and the comments. I did have a conversation with the previous speaker just to say that the intention is not for the orientation to take up time at the assemblies. It could happen before, during the dialogue sessions, or it could happen outside of the assembly dates. It could happen online. It's not intended to take up time at this venue. It's just that it would be available for people to attend. It's intended to be an opt-in, volunteer concept. And then I think I just wanted to clarify the previous comment. Nothing that the Charter Renewal Committee has put forward since July, because we've really constituted ourselves, we haven't put forward anything that puts UNDRIP into the AFN Charter. The only reference to the UNDRIP is on the resolution and the preamble, but that's because the AFN's resolution guidelines ask us to put UNDRIP in every resolution. So that was the Resolutions Committee that gave us that language, but there's nothing in our actual amendment that puts UNDRIP into the AFN Charter. So that is a misunderstanding, I think. It's the resolution that references UNDRIP, but that's only because the AFN rules state that we have to reference UNDRIP in the preamble, not in the actual amendment to the AFN Charter. So we just wanted to clarify, we haven't recommended anywhere for any language from UNDRIP to be added to the AFN Charter. That is not correct, but just wanted to clarify that. But thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the discussion period is now closed, and we will now call to the question to vote. So we will now proceed to the vote on draft resolution number 4, entitled Charter Amendment, AFN Orientation. And I will ask a technician if you can please activate the voting on Zoom, please, so online. And now we'll now ask the question. Just a second, please. Okay, so now anyone that is against draft resolution number 4, if you can please, in the room, if you can please raise your red lanyards, please, up in the air. If you oppose, against, okay? I need confirmation from distribution from here, where I stand. I don't see any raised lanyard, but just want confirmation. Nothing, no vote against. Just want to know the abstention. Is there any abstention in the room? Once again, I will need help because it's so hard to see from here. I see a white, a red lanyard. Yes, an abstention. But I'll wait. Dennis is coming to confirm me. Okay, so we see two abstention. Thank you very much. So I want to ask all in favor. It's obvious, the draft resolution, we know the ending, but just before, just want to go on the Zoom results. And I just want to confirm with you that there is one abstention online. So the draft resolution number 4, Charter Amendment AFN Orientation, is adopted by consensus, no opposition, so by consensus. So thank you very much. Congratulations all. We dealt with the last resolution on charter. And I will now turn the floor over to my colleague to deal with the emergency resolution on water. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Weena, for that. We'll get into the next resolution. It is the emergency resolution that was discussed yesterday. or that was introduced yesterday. It is emergency draft resolution number 1, and the title, it is up on the screen. The title is The Recommitment to Co-Development of Replacement Legislation for Safe Drinking Water for First Nations. I just want to make sure the mover and seconder are in the room. The resolution is moved by Chief Sid Peters. Chief Peters, are you in the room? I see, yes, thank you. If you can approach the mic just to prepare. Seconded by Chief R. Don Marico, who is also present. Thank you. So the mover and the seconder are present. I will get to the operative clause of the resolution. So the resolution is also on the screen. It reads, therefore be it resolved that the First Nations and Assembly 1 direct the Assembly of First Nations, AFN, to call on Canada to cease further development of its legislative drafting and release what they have developed so far on safe drinking water. 2, direct the AFN to withdraw from the Joint Technical Working Group, JTWG, unless Canada recommits to the co-development of legislation in a meaningful partnership with First Nations in compliance with the original terms of reference of the JTWG and the confidentiality agreement. 3, direct the AFN to co-develop legislation that includes, at minimum, A, recognition of First Nation rights and jurisdiction over lands and waters, B, mandatory requirements for Canada to provide water and wastewater treatment that meets minimum national standards, or where requested, the more stringent of the federal requirements or provincial standards governing residential water quality. C, a commitment to adequate and sustained funding, including at a minimum capital, operations and maintenance and inspections to address water and wastewater. D, mechanisms to address transboundary waters. E, liability protection for owners and operators. And F, governance structures that ensure First Nations are decision makers in the provision of water and wastewater services. 4, direct the AFN to call on Canada to ensure there are no criminal charges and or penalties against the owners, operators of a public water system where Canada has failed to provide adequate funding for the operations, capital maintenance, and independent inspection of their public water systems. I just want to confirm that that is the resolution in its entirety. It is. So at this point, I will open up. I will ask the mover at microphone number 1 if you would like to speak to the resolution up to 5 minutes. Go ahead. Microphone 1, please.
Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Chief Sid Peters from Glooscap First Nation in Nova Scotia, and as we know, water has really been a serious issue within all our communities right across the country. And one of the things, of course, is legislation and how important it is for us. We've been working as the Chiefs Committee on Housing and Infrastructure and Water, talking about this, with the federal government, talking about engagement and what we really wanted and how important it was to us to try to look at representation for the whole country. But it was just recently the federal government come back to us and said they were going to continue and move forward on their engagement without working with us together on that. So it's pretty frustrating, of course, as our committee and our advisors advising us and saying, this is the legislation and we're going to move forward without you. And we've seen a lot of that happening in other avenues, but we also know how important water is in moving it forward, to ensure that we protect our people. And it's not only water, it's wastewater as well. So I'm just going to pass it over to my colleague, Chief Marico, to also add a few comments. Thank you very much.
Just so we don't get bogged down into procedural antics, it's an emergency resolution which was announced yesterday that the executive the chiefs have signed off on this to allow it, so it's on the floor properly. Canada had, under a court order, until December 31st to get regulations in place. I understand that they have an extension till the end of March. And we need to get this table moving because we need standards that have to be adhered to for safe drinking water. It's about health and science. and our people can get just as sick as anybody else if the system is not up to par. And the Burnside study that was done a few years ago, an engineering firm indicated that a lot of systems do not meet even provincial standards. So this is urgent, and I would ask for the chiefs for their support. Let's not get bogged down into debate. Let's just get on with the business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Miracle, the seconder. So the floor is open. I am going to go to microphone number 1. Go ahead.
Chief Wilfred King, Kiasagi, Nishnabek, Gulbey First Nation. I just want to, I'm speaking in favor of the resolution, but I just want to make a note here that we just finished a $26 million water treatment plant in our community. We were, I believe, the second longest boil water advisory in Canada. And we built our plant according to Ontario drinking water standards, but we had to adopt some sort of regulations, so we were forced by default in adopting the Canadian drinking water standards, regulations rather. But having said that, you know, being on the second longest boil water advisory in Canada, it really impacted our people. But thank God, because the First Nation was directly involved in this process, we now have the cleanest drinking water in Ontario, better than the City of Thunder Bay, better than the City of Toronto. So thank you very much.
Chief King. Again, the floor is open. I don't see anybody at the microphones. We have support for the resolution. I'm just checking online. Thank you for that. I just want to confirm online that we have no hands that are up. Thank you. So with that, we'll call for a vote. Technicians, can you please open the polls online? Thank you. The polls are online on the Zoom platform. Any opposition to the resolution? Any opposition? I see none from what I can see. Any abstentions? Any abstentions? I see none, and looking at the Zoom platform, I see none either. Nobody against. So with that, resolution is carried by consensus. So thank you very much. Resolution is carried. Thank you. What time is it? It is 12 o'clock, so it's time for lunch. So I've got a couple of announcements. Just a reminder, the National Caucus of Women Leaders is having a lunch meeting at the Shaw Center, room 210. Shaw Center, of course, is the building adjacent. You can get there, I think it's through the second floor. Women's National Caucus. Also, just to acknowledge, very important to acknowledge our sponsors for these 3 days. So we'd like to acknowledge the sponsors, the First Nations Financial Management Board. Thank you very much for your contribution to assist in this assembly. I will go back to microphone 1, just give me a second. Also HP, War Shield, and Bonterra. So I'd like to acknowledge those.
And you need to mention what after lunch.
So I'd like to acknowledge our sponsors. We'll be showing a video during lunch. So right after this, we have a video that we will be showing. I'll talk about that. Just a reminder, right after lunch, we'll deal with draft resolution number 5, the first omnibus resolution, and then the second omnibus resolution. Microphone 1, can I have microphone 1 turned on, please?
Thank you, Adam. There is a rumor circulating the Assembly that different chiefs have heard is that a communique about this whole water legislation has been done by the AFN. We'd like it circulated, or we'd like an explanation why it can't be. So if the executive could work out at that over the lunch and just give us an answer, so we don't listen to rumors here and there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Point noted. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So thank you, everybody. We will see you at 1 o'clock. Again, there is a video that's going to be playing. That's from the First Nations Information Governance Center, and some very valuable information. We'll see you at 1 o'clock. Miigwech.